Ben Carter checked his digital tablet one more time as the transport shuttle descended toward the massive orbital platform. The assignment instructions were clear. Students could bring one small domesticated companion animal for emotional support during the semester abroad. He glanced at Rex, his German shepherd, who sat calmly in the seat beside him with his tongue hanging out in a happy pant. "We're going to have a great time, boy," Ben said, scratching behind Rex's ears. The dog's tail thumped against the seat. The other passengers in the shuttle gave them a wide berth. Ben had noticed this during the entire journey from Earth. Most of the alien species seemed nervous around him, but he figured they were just shy. This was his first time leaving Earth, after all. The Galactic Species Cultural Exchange Program only accepted 20 humans per year, and Ben felt lucky to be chosen. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Ben grabbed his bag and Rex's leash. The dog stood up, stretched, and followed obediently as they walked toward the exit. The moment the airlock doors opened, everything went wrong. A Quillarian student stood in the greeting area holding a welcome sign. She had soft purple fur, large black eyes, and stood about 4 feet tall. When she saw Rex, her eyes went impossibly wider. The sign dropped from her hands. Her mouth opened in a silent scream. "Hi there," Ben said cheerfully. "I'm Ben Carter, exchange student from Earth. This is Rex." The Quillarian made a high-pitched whistling sound and ran. She moved faster than Ben thought possible, her small legs becoming a blur as she disappeared around a corner. Other aliens in the greeting area noticed the commotion. A tall insectoid creature with 4 arms took one look at Rex and scrambled up the wall. A group of plant-like beings froze completely, their leaf-covered bodies going rigid. Ben stood confused. Rex sat down and tilted his head, equally puzzled by the reaction. "What just happened?" Ben muttered. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed along the corridors. A mechanical voice announced in multiple languages, "Security alert. Potential predator breach in Docking Bay 7. All personnel evacuate the area immediately. This is not a drill. Predator breach." Ben looked around. "Where?" A security team arrived within minutes, 6 armored figures carrying strange weapons that hummed with energy. They formed a semicircle around Ben and Rex, keeping their distance. The leader, a heptar with a thick exoskeleton and compound eyes, raised one clawed hand. "Do not move, human," the security officer said. His voice shook slightly. "Keep that creature restrained. Rex, he's just my dog. He's completely friendly." Ben knelt down and put his arm around Rex. The dog licked his face. The security team flinched backward. One of them made a gagging sound. "It just bared its teeth and deployed its tongue toward your face," the leader said, his voice rising in pitch. "You need immediate medical attention." "What?" "No, he's giving me kisses. It's affection." Ben laughed nervously. "This is a misunderstanding." "Affection?" The security officer seemed to struggle with the concept. "That is a Class A predator from a Class 9 death world. It has forward-facing eyes, prominent canine teeth, and powerful jaw muscles. Our sensors detect it could easily kill most species on this station, but he won't. Rex is trained. He's been through obedience school. He's great with kids." Ben stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. There must be some mistake. "The program said I could bring a pet." "A pet?" The officer's antennae twitched rapidly. "We expected something like a fluff ball from Gentis 3 or a singing crystal from Harmonia. Not a predator." More aliens had gathered at a safe distance, peering around corners and through doorways. Ben heard whispered conversations in languages he didn't understand. His translator implant caught fragments. Death world creature, apex predator, insanity. A new figure approached, moving with careful dignity despite obvious fear. She was another Quillarian, older with gray streaks in her purple fur. She wore an official-looking sash across her chest. "I am Director Pala," she said, stopping a good 20 feet away. "I oversee this facility. Young human, I must ask you to return to your shuttle with your predator immediately." "But I just got here. The semester starts tomorrow. I've been preparing for months." Ben felt his excitement crumbling into disappointment. "Rex isn't dangerous. I can prove it." "Please do not make sudden movements," Director Pala said, her voice strained. "We understand you come from Earth, where survival requires different adaptations. However, this station hosts 300 students from 47 species. 90% evolved from prey species. Your companion triggers every instinct that kept our ancestors alive." Rex yawned, showing all his teeth. Several aliens gasped and backed away further. That's just a yawn, Ben said desperately. He's tired from the trip. Look, I'll show you. Rex, sit. The dog sat immediately, looking up at Ben with trusting brown eyes. See? He follows commands. He's well behaved. I've had him since he was a puppy. He's part of my family. Director Paula's ears twitched. She consulted with the security team in hushed tones. Finally, she turned back to Ben. This is unprecedented. We have never had a student bring a predator to this station. I cannot simply turn you away without proper review, as that would violate the exchange program treaty. However, I also cannot allow you to simply roam freely with that creature. She paused. There will be an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. Until then, you and your predator will be confined to your assigned quarters. Security will escort you. Ben wanted to argue, but knew he had no choice. He nodded slowly. Thank you for giving us a chance. The walk to his quarters took 20 minutes. They moved through empty corridors as security cleared each section ahead of them. Ben caught glimpses of students pressing themselves against walls or ducking into rooms. A few brave souls watched from doorways, their faces showing fear and fascination in equal measure. His quarters were small but comfortable, designed for 2 students. One bed sat empty. Ben guessed his assigned roommate wouldn't be showing up anytime soon. After the security team left, sealing the door behind them, Ben sat on his bed. Rex jumped up beside him, resting his head on Ben's lap. This isn't how I imagined our adventure starting. Boy, Ben said softly, through the window. He could see stars stretching endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there was Earth, where dogs were just dogs and nobody ran screaming when they wagged their tails. Ben had dreamed of exploring the galaxy, making friends with aliens, learning about new cultures. Instead, he was locked in a room, and his best friend was being treated like a monster. Rex whined softly, sensing Ben's distress. The dog pressed closer, offering comfort the only way he knew how. Ben hugged him tight. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together, deal? Rex's tail thumped against the bed in agreement. Voices echoed through the ventilation system above Ben's quarters. He had been awake for hours, unable to sleep, listening to the station come alive around him. Students were discussing him. Most of the conversations were frightened. Some were curious. A few were angry. Rex slept peacefully on the floor, completely unaware that he had become the most controversial being on Harmony 7 station. At exactly 8 in the morning, the door chimed. A security escort had arrived to take them to the hearing. Ben attached Rex's leash and stepped into the corridor. This time the route was different. Instead of empty hallways, they walked through common areas where students gathered for breakfast. Every conversation stopped. Hundreds of eyes tracked their movement. Ben tried to smile and wave, but most aliens looked away quickly. A few whispered into communication devices, probably telling friends about the predator sighting. One young Hepter didn't move fast enough. He stood frozen as they passed, his compound eyes fixed on Rex. The dog noticed and wagged his tail in friendly greeting. The Hepter student stumbled backward so fast he knocked over a table. Sorry, Ben called out, but the student had already fled. The hearing room was circular, with tiered seating arranged in a semicircle. Director Paula sat at the center of a raised platform, flanked by 2 other officials. One was a tall Sylvan, her body covered in silver leaves that shimmered under the lights. The other was a Heptar in military dress, his exoskeleton decorated with rank insignias. About 50 students filled the observation seats. Ben recognized some from yesterday's panic. Others were new, come to witness the spectacle. Ben Carter of Earth, Director Paula began formally. You stand before this council to defend your right to remain at this institution with your companion predator. Please present your case. Ben stood, keeping Rex close beside him. The dog sat calmly, though his ears swiveled toward every sound in the room. Thank you for this opportunity, Ben said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. I understand yesterday was scary for everyone. I should have realized that Rex would be seen differently here than on Earth, but I want to explain what he really is. The Sylvan official, who introduced herself as Administrator Yara, leaned forward. Unlike the others, she seemed more curious than afraid. Please help us understand, Yara said. Your application stated you have kept this predator in your dwelling since it was young. This seems impossible to us. Ben took a deep breath. On Earth, we have a relationship with dogs that goes back more than 30,000 years. They weren't always like Rex. They used to be wolves, wild predators that hunted in packs. But over time, humans and wolves formed a partnership. Partnership. The military Hepter, Officer Gren, spoke for the first time. Predators do not partner. They hunt or they are hunted. That's not true, sir. At least not on Earth. Ben gestured to Rex. Dogs evolved alongside humans. We helped each other survive. They protected us from dangers, helped us hunt for food, and warned us of threats. In return, we gave them food, shelter, and companionship. Over thousands of years, we bred them to be loyal, obedient, and friendly. Bred them? Director Paula's ears flattened against her head. You deliberately created predators? We shaped them, Ben corrected. We encouraged traits like gentleness, patience, and the desire to please. Rex isn't a wild animal. He's been trained since he was 2 months old. He knows dozens of commands and follows them instantly. Demonstrate, Officer Gren said sharply. Ben nodded. He looked down at Rex. Sit. Rex sat immediately. Down. Rex lay down, his tail still wagging slowly. Stay. Ben walked 10 feet away. Rex remained perfectly still, his eyes tracking Ben's movement but his body motionless. Ben waited 30 seconds, then called, Come. Rex trotted over, sat at Ben's feet, and looked up expectantly. The room was silent. Several students leaned forward in their seats. One brave Quillarian raised her hand. Can we ask questions? She said quietly. Director Paula looked surprised but nodded. Proceed. Why does it obey you? The student asked. Does it fear you? Are you a more powerful predator? Ben smiled. No, Rex doesn't fear me. He loves me. That's the key to the bond between humans and dogs. It's not about dominance or fear. It's about trust and affection. He obeys because he wants to make me happy. In return, I take care of all his needs and give him attention. But it has teeth, another student, a Sylvan, pointed out. We saw them yesterday. They could tear flesh. Yes, he has teeth. He's a carnivore, which means he eats meat. But so do humans. We're omnivores, which means we eat both plants and meat. We have predator instincts, too. Ben paused. But having predator traits doesn't make us monsters. We chose to build civilizations, create art, and explore the stars. We chose cooperation over violence. Administrator Yara stood up. Her leaves rustled with what Ben was learning to recognize as interest rather than fear. I have read about Earth, she said. Your world is indeed classified as a Class 9 death world. Your planet has more predator species than most worlds in the known galaxy. Yet you have achieved space travel and peaceful society. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge based on instinct alone. Officer Gren was less convinced. One demonstration proves nothing. How do we know this creature won't snap? Won't revert to its predatory nature? Because that's not how it works, Ben said. Rex has been socialized. He's been around children, other animals, busy places. He's reliable. I trust him completely. You trust it with your life, Director Paula said slowly. But can we trust it with ours? A commotion at the back of the room interrupted the discussion. A young Quillarian pushed through the crowd. Ben recognized him from yesterday, one of the first students to run away. My name is Finn, the student said nervously. I am supposed to be Ben's roommate. I ran yesterday. I was terrified. He paused, his small hands twisting together. But I have been researching Earth all night. I learned about dogs and humans. I learned about their bond. And I think maybe we are wrong to judge before we understand. Director Paula looked at Finn with surprise. You wish to room with the human and his predator? I wish to learn, Finn said. Isn't that why we are all here? To learn about other species and cultures? How can we learn if we let fear control us? Murmurs spread through the observation seats. Some students nodded. Others looked uncertain. A few still seemed frightened. Officer Gren stood. I propose a compromise. The human and his predator may remain, but under strict conditions. The creature must undergo behavioral testing. The human must attend sensitivity training about prey species psychology, and they must be monitored constantly. Director Paula considered this, and if there is any incident, any threat at all, they will be removed immediately. Agreed? Ben wanted to argue against the unfairness, but he knew this was the best offer he would get. Agreed. Then this hearing is concluded, Director Paula announced. Ben Carter and his companion may remain at Harmony 7 Station on a probationary basis. As the room cleared, Finn approached cautiously. He stood several feet away, looking at Rex with a mixture of fear and fascination. I am still scared, Finn admitted. But I want to try, Ben smiled. That's all I ask. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Rex, sensing the importance of the moment, lay down and put his head on his paws, making himself as small and non-threatening as possible. Finn took one small step closer. It was a start. 3 weeks passed slowly. Ben attended his classes while Rex stayed in their quarters, confined like a prisoner. Every afternoon, Ben was allowed to take Rex to a designated exercise area, a small empty room in the lowest level of the station. Security cameras tracked their every movement. Guards watched from behind reinforced glass. Finn gradually warmed to their presence. He started by leaving the quarters when Ben brought Rex back from exercise. Then he began staying in the room while Rex slept. Eventually, he worked up the courage to be in the same room while Rex was awake. On the 22nd day, Finn spoke directly to Rex for the first time. "Hello, Predator," Finn said quietly. He sat on his bed, antennae twitching nervously. Rex lay on the floor 10 feet away, chin resting on his paws. The dog's eyes tracked Finn, but he made no move. "His name is Rex," Ben said from his desk where he was studying galactic history. "You can use his name." "Rex," Finn repeated, testing the sound. "It is a short name. On my world, names tell stories. They describe lineage and achievement. What does Rex mean?" "It means king in an old Earth language called Latin." "You named a predator after royalty?" Finn's antennae straightened in surprise. Ben grinned. "He acts like he owns the place sometimes. Seems fitting." Finn was quiet for a moment. "May I ask him a question, even though he cannot answer?" "Sure. He likes when people talk to him." Finn turned his attention back to Rex. "Why do you obey Ben? You are clearly powerful. You could overpower him easily. Your species once roamed free. Why do you accept commands?" Rex's tail swished once across the floor. "I think he's saying it's complicated," Ben joked. But then he grew serious. "Actually, that's a good question. Scientists on Earth have studied it for years. Dogs are pack animals. They need social structure. When Rex joined my family, we became his pack. He trusts us to lead because we take care of him. But you control when he eats, where he goes, what he does." Finn seemed troubled by this. "Is that not slavery?" Ben put down his data pad. "I never thought of it that way. But no, I don't think so. Rex isn't trapped or miserable. Watch this." He stood up. "Rex, want to go for a walk?" The dog's reaction was immediate and dramatic. He leaped to his feet, tail wagging so hard his whole back half wiggled. He spun in an excited circle and barked once. Finn scrambled backward on his bed, startled by the sudden movement. "Easy, boy," Ben said, and Rex calmed instantly, though his tail kept wagging. "See? He's happy. He enjoys our routines. If I opened the door right now and told him to run free, he'd probably look at me like I was crazy and then follow me anyway." "Fascinating," Finn said softly. His fear was slowly being replaced by curiosity. "May I try something?" "What? May I give him a command?" Ben hesitated. "You can try. He might not listen to you, though. He doesn't know you well yet." Finn slid off his bed carefully. He stood at his full height, which brought him to about Ben's shoulder. He took 3 slow steps closer to Rex. Then he said in his clearest voice, "Sit." Rex looked at Finn. Then he looked at Ben, confused. "It's okay, boy," Ben said. "You can listen to Finn." Rex sat, his attention now fixed on Finn. Finn's antennae trembled with what Ben recognized as excitement. "He did it. He obeyed me. Try another one. Tell him to lie down." "Down," Finn said, his confidence growing. Rex lay down. Incredible. Finn took another step closer. "The predator accepts my authority even though I am prey, even though he could destroy me." "He's a good boy," Ben said simply. "That's what we say on Earth about dogs who are well behaved." "Good boy. Good boy," Finn repeated. Rex's tail wagged at the familiar phrase, even from an unfamiliar voice. Over the next hour, Finn worked up the courage to move closer. Ben coached him on reading Rex's body language. A wagging tail meant happy. Ears forward meant alert and interested. A relaxed posture meant calm. Finn learned to recognize the difference between aggressive baring of teeth and a friendly pant. Finally, when Finn stood only 3 feet away, Ben asked, "Do you want to touch him?" Finn froze. "Touch the predator?" "Touch Rex," Ben corrected. "Yes, his fur is soft. It's one of the reasons humans bred dogs to look and feel the way they do. We enjoy petting them." "You touch him for pleasure? Not just necessity?" "All the time. It makes both of us happy. Scientists proved that when humans pet dogs, both species release happy chemicals in their brains. It's comforting." Finn considered this. His antennae moved in complex patterns that Ben was learning to read as deep thought. Finally, he nodded. "Tell me what to do." Ben called Rex over. The dog stood and walked to Ben's side, then sat automatically. "Put your hand out, let him smell you first." Finn extended one shaking hand. Rex leaned forward and sniffed carefully, his wet nose touching Finn's exoskeleton. Finn flinched but held still. "Good. Now you can touch the top of his head right here." Ben demonstrated. Gentle strokes. Finn reached out slowly. His hand hovered above Rex's head for a long moment. Then, with visible effort of will, he lowered his hand and touched the soft fur between Rex's ears. Rex's eyes closed in contentment. His tail wagged slowly. "It is soft," Finn whispered in wonder. "And warm. He is warm like you are, not cold like I expected. He's a mammal. All mammals are warm-blooded." Finn stroked Rex's head again, more confident now. "I have never touched a predator before. I was taught they were death itself, cold and cruel. But he is gentle under my hand. He accepts my touch. Because you're not a threat to him or to me. He understands that now." A knock on the door interrupted them. Ben opened it to find Administrator Yara standing in the corridor. Her silver leaves shimmered with interest. "I heard from security that something unusual was happening," she said. "A hepter touching a predator willingly. I had to see this." "Come in," Ben offered. Yara entered, her eyes on Finn and Rex. "This is remarkable progress. How do you feel, Finn?" "Different," Finn said honestly. His hand still rested on Rex's head. "I feel like I have learned something important. Not all predators are the same. Some can choose gentleness. Just like not all prey are the same," Ben added. "Some can choose bravery." Yara's leaves rustled with approval. "Well said. I wonder if you would permit me to share this experience with other students. I believe many would benefit from seeing that understanding can overcome instinct." "I think that's a great idea," Ben said. Word spread quickly through the station. By the next day, 3 students had requested permission to meet Rex under supervision. By the end of the week, there was a waiting list. Not everyone was convinced. The Safe Spaces Coalition still protested, arguing that Rex's presence made the station dangerous. But their numbers dwindled as more students had positive encounters. Officer Gren remained skeptical. He attended one of the supervised meetings, watching Rex interact with a group of nervous Quillarians. When a young student accidentally stepped on Rex's tail, making him yelp, Gren tensed, ready to intervene. But Rex simply moved away and lay down elsewhere, showing no aggression. "Interesting," Gren muttered, but he didn't elaborate. Ben felt hope growing. Maybe they would be accepted here after all. Maybe Rex could prove that predators weren't monsters. He didn't know that everything was about to change. Red lights flashed at 2 in the morning. The alarm split the silence like a knife, jerking Ben from sleep. Rex was already on his feet, ears forward, body tense. Finn tumbled out of bed, his antennae pointing in all directions. "What is happening?" Finn shouted over the noise. Ben checked his tablet. Emergency alerts scrolled across the screen. "Life support failure in Section D. Everyone needs to evacuate." They rushed into the corridor with dozens of other students. The crowd moved in organized chaos toward the emergency assembly points. Ben kept Rex close on his leash, aware of the nervous glances from students who still weren't comfortable around him. The evacuation proceeded smoothly until they reached Assembly Point 3. Director Pallas stood at the entrance with a digital roster, checking off students as they arrived. Her face showed stress beyond normal emergency protocols. Has anyone seen Pip? She called out urgently. Pip from Quillaria Prime? Small blue fur, first-year student? Students looked at each other and shook their heads. A cold feeling settled in Ben's stomach. A missing student during a life support failure was serious. Officer Gren arrived with his security team. We have searched the safe zones. The child is not there. Keep searching, Director Pala ordered, but her voice shook. Thermal sensors should find him. The gas leak is interfering with sensors, Gren reported. We cannot get accurate readings in Section D. Rex suddenly pulled hard on his leash. He faced away from the assembly point, toward the damaged section. A low whine came from his throat, not aggressive but urgent. What is it, boy? Ben asked. Rex pulled again, harder. His nose lifted, sniffing the air. Then he barked once, sharp and demanding. Your predator needs to be quiet, an official said nervously. It is disturbing the other students. But Ben knew that bark. He had heard it dozens of times on Earth. It was Rex's alert bark, the one he used when he found something important during search training. Ben's father had been a volunteer with search and rescue teams, and Rex had basic training in finding people. Director Pala, Ben said quickly, I think Rex knows where Pip is. Impossible, Gren said. The sensors cannot penetrate the interference. His sensors can. Ben pointed to Rex's nose. Dogs have incredible sense of smell, way better than any electronic sensor. If Pip went into Section D before the leak, Rex might be able to track his scent. Director Pala looked torn between hope and doubt. It is too dangerous. The predator could be reacting to anything. Rex barked again, pulling so hard Ben had to brace himself. The dog's whole body was focused on one direction. Finn stepped forward. I believe Ben. I have learned to read Rex's behavior. This is not random. He has found something. The child could be dying, Ben pressed. Every minute matters. Please. Director Pala made a decision. Go, but Officer Gren and I will accompany you. If this is false alarm, there will be consequences. They moved quickly through empty corridors. Rex led the way, pulling Ben along while his nose worked constantly. The dog ignored every turn except the ones where the scent led him. Twice he stopped, circled back, and chose a different route. He lost the trail, Gren said. No, Ben replied. He's following air currents, finding where the scent is strongest. This is what he's trained for. They entered Section D where the air tasted metallic and wrong. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. Rex pulled them past the main life support room, past storage areas, to a maintenance corridor that didn't appear on the main maps. Why would a student go in there? Director Pala asked. Children explore, Ben said. They don't always follow rules. Rex stopped at a wall panel that looked solid. He pawed at it urgently and barked 3 times. There is nothing there, Gren said, scanning with his equipment. Sensors show solid wall. Your sensors are broken. Trust Rex. Ben examined the panel carefully. He found a small gap at one edge. Help me pull this. Together, Ben and Gren pried the panel away. Behind it was a narrow shaft, angled downward into darkness, and from deep within came a small, weak voice. Help! Please help! Pip! Director Pala cried out. Hold on, child. We are coming. But the shaft was too narrow for adults. Gren tried to squeeze in and couldn't fit. Director Pala was too wide. Ben was too tall. Rex, however, was exactly the right size. I can send Rex down, Ben said. He can find Pip and stay with him until we figure out how to get them both out. Send a predator to a frightened child? Gren looked horrified. Send a rescue dog to a child who needs help, Ben corrected. It's what he's trained for. Director Pala looked into the dark shaft where Pip's cries were getting weaker. She made the hardest decision of her life. Do it. Ben knelt beside Rex. Find, boy. Find and stay. Rex understood. He had played this game hundreds of times in training. He wriggled into the shaft, his body barely fitting. His claws scraped against metal as he descended into darkness. They heard Pip scream when Rex reached him. The sound made everyone flinch. But then Pip's voice changed from terror to confusion. Predator? Why is Predator here? Ben called down the shaft. Pip, his name is Rex. He found you. He's there to help. Can you touch him? Silence. Then, he is warm and soft. That's right. He's going to keep you warm until we get you out. Don't be scared. What happened next amazed everyone. Pip began talking to Rex in a shaky voice, telling the dog about being stuck, about being scared, about the cold. And Rex, though he couldn't respond with words, responded with presence. They heard the distinct thump of his tail wagging against metal. It took an hour to cut through the wall and create a larger opening. During that entire time, Rex stayed with Pip. When the rescue team finally pulled them both out, Pip was clutching Rex's fur with both small hands. The child was hypothermic and injured from the fall, but alive. Medical teams rushed Pip to the hospital wing. Before they took him away, Pip looked back at Rex. Good Predator, the child said softly. Good Rex. The words hung in the air like a small miracle. Director Pallas stood in the corridor as medical teams left, her face showing exhaustion and wonder. That Predator saved a life tonight. A Quillarian life. I do not know what to say. Say thank you, Ben suggested gently. It's what we do on Earth when someone helps us. Thank you, Director Pallas said, looking directly at Rex. Thank you, good Rex. Rex's tail wagged. He didn't understand most of what had happened, but he understood that tone. He had done a good job. News of the rescue spread through the station faster than the earlier news of Rex's arrival. By morning, students lined up outside the medical wing, not to see Pip, who was recovering well, but to catch a glimpse of the Predator who had saved him. Officer Gren found Ben in the cafeteria that afternoon. I owe you and your companion an apology. I judged based on fear and instinct. I was wrong. We all have instincts, Ben said. The important thing is what we do with them. For the first time since arriving, Ben felt like they belonged. Rex had proven himself in the best way possible, not through violence but through compassion. 2 days later, everything fell apart for a very different reason. The first sign of trouble was silence. The station's constant background hum of conversation and activity stopped all at once, replaced by an eerie quiet that made Ben look up from his lunch. Then the announcement came. Not an alarm this time, but Director Pallas' voice strained and careful. Attention all students and staff. We have detected an unidentified vessel approaching our station. Please remain calm and proceed to your designated shelter areas. This is a mandatory precaution. Security personnel report to your stations immediately. The cafeteria erupted. Students grabbed their belongings and rushed toward exits. Ben found Finn in the crowd. What kind of vessel? Finn asked, his antennae rigid with stress. Unknown usually means bad news, Ben said. He clipped Rex's leash on quickly. Come on. Their designated shelter was a reinforced classroom in the station's core. 30 students crowded inside, representing a dozen different species. The fear was obvious. Many of these students had never experienced danger before. Administrator Yara stood at the door checking students off her list. When she saw Ben and Rex, she nodded them inside. Good, we need everyone accounted for. What's happening? Ben asked. Yara's leaves had gone dark, almost gray. The vessel is not responding to communication. Its trajectory suggests deliberate approach. We are hoping it is just a malfunction, but security is preparing for worst case. Worst case being raiders. Scarix possibly. They are one of the few aggressive predator species that still engage in piracy. Ben felt his stomach drop. Does this station have weapons? Defenses? Minimal. We are an educational facility. We rely on Galactic Patrol for protection, but they are 3 hours away. Yara's voice was tight. We have never needed more than basic security. The next hour was tense. Students huddled in small groups checking their tablets for updates. Rex sensed the anxiety and stayed close to Ben, his body tense and alert. Several students who had befriended Rex over the past week sat near them, finding comfort in his presence despite their lingering instincts. The tablet screens all flashed the same message simultaneously. Hull breach detected. Unauthorized docking at Bay 4. All personnel remain in shelters. Security responding. They are boarding us, Finn whispered. His voice shook. Raiders are actually boarding the station. A Quillarian student began crying. Others tried to comfort her, but their own fear made it difficult. Ben noticed how young many of these students were. Children, really. Most had never experienced violence or real danger. Rex growled low in his throat. His ears pointed toward the door. Ben knew that sound. Rex had detected something. Someone's coming, Ben said quietly. Everyone froze. They heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Heavy footsteps, nothing like the light tread of station security. The door handle rattled but held. The shelter doors were magnetically sealed from inside. A voice came from outside, speaking in a language Ben didn't know. His translator implant processed it. Open this door. Come out peacefully and you will not be harmed. We only want supplies and data. No one moved. No one spoke. We have ways of opening the door, the voice continued. You make this harder than necessary. Administrator Yara stood up. I will negotiate with them. Perhaps we can avoid violence. No, Ben said suddenly. An idea was forming, dangerous but necessary. Rex can hear them in the corridor. I think there's only 2 of them near this door. They're spreading out through the station, checking rooms. What are you suggesting? Yara asked. I'm suggesting that humans are predators too. We have instincts for this kind of situation. And Rex is trained for protection work. Ben looked around at the frightened faces. We can't just wait here hoping they leave. What if they start taking hostages? Officer Gren's voice came through on the room's communication panel. All shelter areas, this is Security Command. The Raiders have taken control of our security office. They have access to our systems. They know where you are sheltering. Multiple teams are moving through the station. The situation was clear. Waiting meant capture. Ben made his decision. There's a maintenance corridor that connects to this section, Ben said. I've studied the station maps. If we could move some of the younger students to a more secure location, they'd have a better chance. The corridors are not safe, Yara said. The Raiders are patrolling, which is why you need someone who thinks like a predator. Let me and Rex scout ahead. We can move quietly. We can detect threats before they see us. Ben looked at Finn. You coming? Finn's antennae trembled, but he stood up. Yes, I am coming. 2 other human students in the shelter stood as well. Ivy, a girl from New Zealand, and Paul, a boy from Germany. We should stick together, Ivy said. Humans understand tactics that prey species might not. Yara made a decision. I am trusting you. Take the youngest students to the emergency command center. It has better defenses. I will stay here with the older students and try to delay if raiders come. Ben organized quickly. 12 young students, all terrified, all looking to him for leadership. He felt the weight of responsibility but pushed the fear down. Rex needed him calm. The students needed him calm. They slipped into the maintenance corridor through a panel at the back of the classroom. The space was narrow and dark, lit only by dim emergency lights. Rex led the way, his senses far superior to any humans in the darkness. They moved in silence. Ben learned to read Rex's body language perfectly. When the dog's ears swiveled right, they waited. When his hackles rose slightly, they backtracked and found another route. Twice they heard raiders in adjacent corridors and froze until the danger passed. Ivy and Paul helped keep the young students quiet and moving. Finn stayed close to Ben, his fear pushed aside by determination. They were halfway to the emergency command center when Rex stopped suddenly. His body went rigid. A growl built in his chest, deeper and more serious than Ben had ever heard. What is it, boy? Ben whispered. From the darkness ahead came sounds, heavy breathing, the scrape of claws on metal, and then a figure emerged into the dim light. The Scarix Raider was massive, standing nearly 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in dark scales. Its eyes reflected the emergency lights like a cat's. Its mouth held rows of sharp teeth. This was a true predator evolved for hunting and killing. The raider saw them, its lips pulled back in what might have been a smile or a threat display. Well, it said in accented Galactic Common. What do we have here? Prey trying to run? Its eyes fixed on Ben. And a human. Interesting, I have heard of your kind. Behind Ben, the young students pressed close together. He felt their fear. He knew if he failed here, they would all be captured or worse. Rex's growl intensified. The dog placed himself between Ben and the raider, his body coiled and ready. The Scarix Raider laughed. And a Earth predator. How amusing. But you are small, little beast. I am Apex Predator. You should run. Rex doesn't run, Ben said quietly. And neither do I. The raider's eyes narrowed. Then you will learn why prey species fear us. It lunged forward. Rex met it halfway. Rex hit the Scarix raider like a missile. 60 pounds of trained muscle, bred over thousands of years for exactly this kind of moment. The raider stumbled backward, surprised by the ferocity. Rex's teeth found purchase on the raider's arm, not deep enough to seriously wound, but enough to cause pain and shock. "Get the students back," Ben shouted to Finn. "Now!" Finn didn't hesitate. He herded the young students back down the corridor while Ivy and Paul positioned themselves as a rear guard. The Scarix roared and threw Rex against the wall. The dog hit hard but recovered instantly, circling for another attack. The raider was bigger, stronger, but Rex had something the raider lacked. Rex had training. He had discipline. He had a purpose. "Call off your beast, human," the raider snarled, "or I will kill it." "He's not a beast," Ben said. He had grabbed a piece of broken pipe from the floor. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. "His name is Rex, and you just threatened children under his protection." The raider came at Ben this time, probably thinking the human was easier prey. It was a mistake. Ben had grown up wrestling with Rex, playing rough, learning to move like a predator even though humans had mostly lost those instincts. He ducked under the raider's swing and brought the pipe across its knee. The raider howled. Rex attacked again from the side. This time he went for the leg he had seen Ben hit, understanding the tactic even without words. The raider went down on one knee. "You fight well for prey," the raider admitted, breathing hard. "But there are more of us, many more. You cannot win." "Maybe not," Ben said. "But we can make it expensive for you." The raider's communication device crackled. Another raider's voice came through. "Team 3 report. Have you secured the shelter locations?" The raider on the ground looked at its communicator, then at Ben and Rex. It made a calculation. "Team 3 reporting. Encountering resistance. Advising caution. These prey have teeth." More voices came through the device, confusion spreading through the raider ranks. They had expected easy targets. Frightened prey to herd and control. Instead, they were finding organized resistance. Officer Gren's voice suddenly echoed through the station's communication system. "All students, all staff. The predators have made a mistake. They think we are helpless because we are prey species. But we have learned something important these past weeks. We have learned from humans. We have learned that predators can be stopped by those who refuse to run." The Scarix raider looked confused. "What is he talking about?" Ben smiled. "You're about to find out. Rex, guard." Rex positioned himself over the raider, growling a clear warning. The raider stopped moving, intelligent enough to recognize when prey had become predator. Ben grabbed the raider's communicator and spoke into it. Switching to the emergency frequency, he knew station security monitored. "Officer Gren, this is Ben. I have one raider contained in Maintenance Corridor 7C. Send security when available." "Acknowledged, Ben Carter. Hold position, and thank you." Ben could hear through the walls now, the sound of fighting, shouting in multiple languages. The raiders had expected sheep but found wolves instead. Students who had spent weeks learning that predators could be faced and understood were now applying those lessons. Finn returned with Ivy and Paul. The young students are secure in the emergency command center. Director Pala is there with them. Good. Ben looked at his friends. Now we help others. They moved through the station, Rex leading the way. 3 more times they encountered raiders. Each time the raiders expected easy prey and found coordinated resistance instead. Ben noticed something important during these encounters. The raiders were good at intimidation, but poor at actual combat against opponents who fought back. They had relied too long on fear. In the central hub, they found Officer Gren and his security team pinned down by 4 raiders. The security team had weapons but were hesitant to use them, their prey instincts warring with their training. Ben didn't have that problem. He was a predator facing other predators. He understood the psychology. Rex, bark. Rex unleashed a barrage of deep, aggressive barks that echoed through the hub. The raiders turned, startled. Their attention divided. It was the opening Gren needed. His security team moved with new confidence, emboldened by the human support. The raiders, realizing they were now outnumbered and facing opponents who wouldn't back down, made the smart choice. They retreated. After them, Gren ordered. Do not let them regroup. The chase was on. Through corridors and common areas, the raiders fled toward their ship. But something had changed in the station's defenders. They moved with purpose now. Students who had cowered in fear days ago now helped block corridors, sealing off escape routes. They used their knowledge of the station to trap the raiders in dead ends. By the time Galactic patrol ships arrived 3 hours later, it was nearly over. The raiders were contained in the docking bay, surrounded by an unlikely army of prey species who had learned to bare their teeth. The patrol commander, a tall being covered in blue feathers, surveyed the scene with obvious surprise. We expected to find hostages and destruction. Instead, we find the raiders contained. How did this happen? Director Pala stepped forward, and beside her sat Rex, tail wagging proudly. We had a good teacher. Several good teachers, actually. We learned that being prey is a choice, not a destiny. The next weeks were busy. Statements to Galactic Patrol, repairs to the station, counseling for traumatized students. But through it all, something fundamental had changed. Students approached Rex without fear now. They asked to pet him. They brought him treats they thought he might like. A group of Quillarian students even made him a special vest with the station logo, declaring him an honorary security officer. Pip, the child Rex had rescued from the shaft, visited every day. The two had formed an unlikely bond. Where Pip went, Rex followed. The child's parents, who had been terrified of the predator, now brought Rex toys from their home world. Finn had become Rex's unofficial second handler. He learned all the commands and took Rex for walks when Ben was in class. They were writing a paper together about interspecies cooperation for their cultural exchange project. Officer Gren recommended Ben for a commendation from Galactic Patrol for his actions during the raid. The human showed us that courage is not the absence of fear, Gren said at the ceremony. It is acting despite fear, and his companion showed us that predators are not defined by their teeth, but by their choices. On the last day of the semester, Ben stood in the observation deck with Finn, Ivy, Paul, and Yara. Rex lay at their feet, content and sleepy after a long day of attention from admirers. I was wrong about Earth predators, Yara said quietly. Her silver leaves shimmered with emotion Ben had learned to recognize as fondness. I was wrong about many things. You have taught us all valuable lessons. Rex did most of the teaching, Ben said. I just translated, Finn laughed. Next semester I am requesting assignment to Earth. I want to meet more dogs. And cats, you mentioned cats once, Ben grinned. Oh, you're in for a surprise with cats. They're predators who definitely know they're predators. I look forward to it, Finn said, and Ben knew he meant it. As the stars wheeled past the observation window, Ben scratched Rex behind the ears. The assignment had said to bring a pet. He had brought a predator. But more importantly, he had brought a teacher who showed an entire station that the line between predator and friend was drawn by trust, not teeth. Rex's tail thumped against the floor. Good boy, the tail said. Good boy indeed. Far below them, in the common areas and classrooms, in the corridors and cafeterias, students of 47 species moved together with new understanding. Some were prey, some were predators, but all were learning that in the vast galaxy, survival meant cooperation, not competition, and it all started because one human brought his dog to school. The end.